Alrighty, hey guys, welcome back to another stream. I am joined here by a good friend of the channel, Josh Howard. How you doing, sir?
I am great. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Uh, I know it's been a while since we had you on. I know the last crowdfunder you were on, we didn't get a chance, because our schedules didn't line up and stuff like that.
Right.
And so yeah, I was glad to get you back on here because honestly, I'll be a bit. I'm actually a bigger fan of Dead of 17 versus T-Bird Throttle. Don't get me wrong, I love T-Bird and Throttle, but I just love Dead of 17 because that's actually the series that got me introduced to you. And and it's also up my wheel alley, which we'll talk about, with the whole, horror and everything else. And of course, you just launched your crowdfunder for 3 weeks ago, and you're in your final week here for your reboot of the series in the comic sphere.
Yeah,
So
it's been exciting, and I'm glad to get back to it after all this time. And yeah, it's weird. I've kind of built two different audiences. There's always a lot of crossover, but
right.
there's definitely the T-Bird people and the Data 17 people for sure.
Well, I think for me, because I know, like, in my regards, being introduced at Dead at 17, and of course then reading Black Harvest, I'm a huge horror fan, so those are definitely up my wheel alley. But I'm also a
Right.
superhero fan, so I think when I first found out, like, because I actually got introduced to you, even though I had been reading you, but personally we got introduced through John Delarose. When you, I think you were doing T Bird issue 2 when we first had you on the channel, if I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
correctly. And so like, I am a huge superhero fan. I mean, I also have a superhero comic, and I love writing superhero stuff. But horror is kind of more my thing. I like horror. But then, of course, with Dead at 17, you also hit my other buttons because I have a degree in religion, so in biblical
Oh,
theology. So it's like you have all that, you have all the religious stuff in Dead at 17, which also hits my, it's that horror, sci-fi slash religious themes that you have in that whole mix, and which is great, because I did not when I first read Dead at 17. I think I originally read the first volume, and it was done by Image, and I couldn't find any of the other volumes. So I only had like the first volume of it, and I
mhm.
did eventually, on when Comixology finally got them. When Image finally signed up with Comixology, that's where I was able to catch back up with the digital versions of everything on Dead at 17. But there was no print, and then I think then 2015, of course, that's when right before the crumbling of the whole big two and stuff like that, they
Mhm.
Image announced, your collection. I was like, sold. Because I tell you what, I love that omnibus. I wish it was hardcover, but at the same time, I still love it because I have it right there. It's all in one sitting and reading. And Image did a really good job with that collection.
Well, thank you. Did you have I told you the story about that it was supposed to be hardcover? Have I told you that story? Have you heard that
No,
story?
no, no.
Yeah, I did,
Go
I
ahead.
did a stream video on my channel like last week where I kind of went into the whole history of Dead of 17. Anyway, I told the story of how originally Image told me they wanted to do this hardcover collection. It told me like from the very beginning when I started over there. And when it came time to do it, like I said, "Was it okay? I want to do it." They're like, "Okay, cool." So they have fill out the solicitation information that goes into Diamond. So I did
Right.
that. They sent me the ad how it was going to look, and it said, the 17 hardcover collection and everything. I was like, "Oh, cool." Well, the previous catalog comes out a few months later, and it says soft cover. I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, this is not what like." Was there a mistake? So I emailed them, and they're like, "Oh no, we decided to change it." And I was like, "What? You didn't tell me?" And like,
What?
"Oh yeah." They go, "Oh, whoops. Yeah, we just didn't think the sale." Yeah, they just like, "We didn't think sales justified going to hardcover, so we just went softcover." I was like, "It'd been nice to you to tell me this because I've been promoting it as a hardcover this whole time."
Yeah, that
So
that that's kind of crappy.
yeah, like I left a bad taste in my mouth with Image, and that was the last thing I've done with them. So
Oh man, because
yeah,
that the thing is, because the reason why I think it deserves a hardcover is because it's such a large collection. I mean, it's like what, 700 pages? I think
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like a nice thick book, but it's also kind of makes it easily damaged. It's kind of hard to wield, and it would have been nicer having hardcover for sure. So, and
you know,
it's just one of those things where I don't know that I could ever do it on my own because it'd be so cost prohibitive just for me doing it myself.
right. You'd
Um,
have to do like a very limited run, and you'd probably have to charge like a good premium because I know like Terry
yeah,
Moore does I don't know if you know who Terry Moore is or not.
yeah, I know who he
Uh,
is.
okay, he does a very limited run on his card covers.
Okay,
He does his Rachel Rising. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to get it. Um, I think he charged like for the hardcover, it was like $250.
that sounds about
For
right. Yeah,
yeah, and I'm like, man, I can't afford that. My softback with him was still about $75, 75 $100 for the softback. You know, that's
how many pages is that for that
like
book?
a thousand,
Oh, okay, yeah,
1,300 or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah, I unfortunately I have it packed away, but yeah, it's. I will tell you, both of your volumes. You know, when you stack them up together, I actually use them right because they're about the same size for Rachel Rising in that one. I think the only series indie series I know that probably has a beat is probably Strangers in Paradise, and I think that's like 2000 because that's been running for so long.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I think I think the original series has like 45 maybe 50 issues, and I think that Rachel Rising only had like 26. Now, in your original series, when it was released, because I only got to read it by volumes. Did they release them individually, or did they release them like volume, but one, volume two, volume three?
Oh no, everything had an individual issue release.
Okay,
Yeah.
so are they very hard to find? have you?
Um,
Have,
yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. Like, I haven't looked recently. I know at one time, especially the first series, those had the lowest print run.
right.
I think they printed like 3,000 total. Um, yeah, so those are definitely a little hard to come by. I'm not sure what those go for now, though. But yeah.
Uh, I'm gonna just Google it. Comic Shop One here. So the Viper One, uh, from your original series when Viper did the print, it looks like right now there's one that's in okay condition. They're selling it for $12. They have one that's 9.4
Uh,
is $200.
okay.
So, which isn't bad. I would think, $12 for a I don't have, for me, I'm not a person who chases after the mint print and stuff like that, but as long as it's in decent shape, it's not ripped or anything like that, $12 isn't a bad amount. Heck, I got the 1990s Neymar run. I was able to finally pick it up, a completed series because I had like I think I had like the last like last like 15 or 20 I was missing, and I could never find them at any comic shop I went to. Like I was going down to Baltimore, Philadelphia, I just couldn't find them. And so
Yeah.
somebody about 4 years ago actually had a completed run in very good condition, not near mint or anything. I think it was like very good condition, BC, and I got it for like $150 for all 39 issues. Now I have duplicates and stuff like that, but that's okay. It's my
Yeah.
favorite series. But I don't have to have it. I don't need to have it because it's a sentimental. That's the same thing. Now I have the trades for me to read and stuff like that. I would love to get the individuals, but $200 is a little much, but 12 isn't bad. So
Well, I know, like back when the height of its popularity, I remember issue one was going for 60 to $80.
wow,
Um, because I took a picture. I was at Comic Con one year and I saw that they had someone had issue one as their table on display and it was like $65. I took a picture of it and I was just like, this is so surreal. Like this is like the moment where you think, wow, I made it. But of course nothing
yeah.
lasts forever, and now you can get it for $12 apparently. So
Well, I think part of the problem is we've had how many market collapse in comics,
Well, well, right, yeah. And
and I
plus,
don't.
there's
Go ahead.
aside from the market, there's also been, and this maybe just be my perspective because I'm not a big mainstream creator, but it feels like there's been a shift in just um the audience to where a lot of the readers and people like making websites and things like now like don't even remember things from just early 2000s. It's like they only remember the past like 5-10 years.
If even that, in some
Well, yeah,
cases.
because it's like I I carved out a decent, you know, niche for myself, but it's like I never even existed to some people now. It's very bizarre. It's like
Yeah.
I've almost had to start all over, you know? Um,
I think a lot of it comes down to I don't know. This is just me being in the indie scene for so long. I think because you were mainstream for quite a long time, and really with T Bird Throttle, with the mainstream industry kind of collapsing in on itself,
mhm,
you almost had to like you, Art Thurber, Gary Shipman, Doug TenNapel, even Ben Dunn, at AP or
mhm,
Peter Simeti at Alternative. You guys kind of had to shift into these like indie people, so it was a almost. Yeah, and I'm sure I know we talked about when you're how you had that drop off from issue 1 to issue 2. I'm sure that probably didn't help either. When you did the shifting of the platforms and stuff like that. Um, I don't know why people do that. To me, I'm gonna go if I like a creator. And I know we've talked about this before. If I like a creator, I'm gonna follow that creator. I don't care what platform he is because I want to support the creator. It's
well,
not
yeah,
about.
yeah, the whole back and forth or like I don't know what you call it. The disputes over crowdfunding, the crowdfunding platform you use is so silly to me. Like why it matters. Because to me, it's just these platforms to me are just a glorified, checkout system,
Yeah.
right? It's like would you care if who you Shopify or Big Cartel? No. Like,
Mhm.
you
No,
know,
I,
like
I I think it's tribalism. People get.
yeah. Yeah, and then people go back and forth. Like I know there was tribal, and then like all of a sudden, oh, this one pissed me off, so I'm going back to this other one that pissed me off to begin with. And it's like you can't keep track of which one you're supposed to be using and which one you're not supposed to be using.
I think people just got. Unfortunately, I think people just got tired of all the infighting and all the stuff.
Yeah.
So we kind of all. And I know I've done this myself. Like I have select creators. Like I have you, like the Common America guys. Bill Williams from like Punchline,
Hmm.
um of course Brian Ball, my friend from Rags and stuff like that. So like and then I have I select people who I get their stuff from, like Travis Gibbs, or so I think that's where it's come down to. People are very selective also on who they're giving their money to because money's tight,
Yeah.
and
Right.
I think I think most people are like, if I had $200, I would have definitely bought an artwork from you. Unfortunately, with moving, I don't have a lot of extra money. And the other day, unfortunately, I was on my way to work, and they were doing macadam. They were paving the road right where it goes into my work, and I had to swing a little wide to get around the guy, and I caught the guardrail, put a nice huge gash in the side of my car in my dent.
Ugh.
So yeah, so there's another $500 I got to shell out
Well, no, I
for.
mean, yeah, I totally get it to where like I mean the economy the way it is, it's like it used to be where like $20, like no one thought about $20. Oh, a book
Yeah,
$20. But now it's like I think about $20, right? It's just like it's unfortunate that, so like I definitely appreciate, everyone's position and those that even give above that to my campaigns. Like it means a lot to me. So
and
I
I
understand that people that
go
can't.
ahead.
Yeah. No, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's where people are being a little bit more why people are being a little bit more selective with their money because they're going to go to you and they're going to say, well, and I see this, they're going to say, well, Josh Howard's been doing crowdfunding for the last X amount of years. He's fulfilled every one of his campaigns. You know what? I may not have $50. I may have $50 to spend on comics this month. Instead of buying all these other ones that not guaranteed, I'm going to take $50 and put it on Josh because I know I can get this reward and this, and he's going to
Yeah.
fulfill it. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I think I think that's where I think people are being very selective, and I think it's smart. You go to the guys who I like I said, you know, I the moment I see a campaign go up, like you guys, like heck, I already have Common America already saved to go to the next one. I just also picked up, I reserved today. I don't know if you remember a series called Enormous.
Hmm.
It was like it was done with this very painting type artwork, and it was about almost like giant kaiju and stuff like that. Well, they just released the second volume, and I think Image originally had the print run of that. Well, they now kind of split off on their own. Well, anyhow, so I picked that up. So and they fulfilled my first issue. So I'm I think people that's where people are getting very selective. So like I have no problem, you know, putting money down. My only issue was, freaking, I don't like Indiegogo's tipping thing. That kind of makes me sus. Like, Indiegogo, why are you tipping?
No,
I don't know.
what do you mean exactly?
So when you back a tier,
Uh-huh.
they actually have an option that you have to opt out for tipping.
Oh, weird. I don't know if I was aware of that.
That's not you. That's Indiegogo. That's what
Yeah,
they do.
that's weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Like to me that is like very sus. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. But then Kickstarter has its own issues too. Like they've kind of talked about doing the same thing. It's like, guys, you're already taking enough money from me. I'm not giving you any more. Because when you as a creator, you're given almost 10% on these platforms to them. Like, why are we
Yeah.
tipping them? You're already giving almost 10% of your. So let's say you raise $6,000. Well, 600 of that's already going to them. You know,
Yeah.
and then you got to pay all the credit card fees and stuff like that. So, but
No, I
uh,
mean, I want to go back and try Kickstarter again, and I very well may do it, with this campaign actually. But I've had such mixed results with Kickstarter.
yeah, it's a hit or a miss. We when we did, because I actually, I don't know if I didn't tell you what happened with the whole Sporkman stuff.
Oh
We'll
yeah,
yeah, we'll have to talk about that kind of in private, but let's just say my partner and I had a huge falling out.
yeah,
And
that's too bad.
yeah, and so I'm he refuses. I sent him money and he's refusing to fulfill part of the campaign. So now I gotta take all the money that I have from that and put my own personal money in so I can get stuff printed. And that's why it's been delayed to get stuff done,
Hmm.
because I just been so tight with the money, because I can't touch that money that's in the bank because that's specifically for that. But I need extra money to do extra printing. So
Right.
I'm hoping once we get moved and stuff like that, because I mean, our when our landlord raised our rent up so much, it's like that killed me. And
Hmm.
my job, I work for the state of Pennsylvania. I don't get a pay raise, because I'm a
Hmm.
contractor. So yeah,
Right.
it's a little tight. So so I
Yeah.
have where I have, I have limited, but yeah, other than that, look, that's the thing, is I see, but I'm glad that you're basically all the rights are now back to you 100%. It sucks what they did, and Image being the way they are. I really hope, that you know um maybe if you're going to do another print run of Black Harvest, or did they say anything about that? Like, did that come back to you too?
Well, like I said, I still own it even if they're printing it. So like I can do I think whatever I want. I don't think it,
Okay.
I don't think they're not even paying attention to me anyway. So
Yeah, they're too into, well, Kirkman. I think a lot of it comes down to Kirkman really changed a lot of going on in Image.
mhm.
I think Todd and those guys, they kind of stepped back and not doing a lot of stuff. I think Kirkman really kind of took control of that company with Skybound and everything. So,
Right.
and then of course they went unionized, and unfortunately, so but let's talk about your crowdfunder. I'm going to go ahead and bring that up here, and let's talk about that. you know uh By the way, I'll for those who are gonna be listening later, I'll link to Josh's stream about the history of Dead at 17. As he said, he did one. You said about what? About a week ago.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and I'll get that in the description, and that way you guys can go back and and listen to the history of that. Um, with what let me ask you this because I know we really didn't talk about this. So, what got you to go back to? I know you did the book at Dead at 17 about 2 years ago. Uh, was that what really kind of fueled you to go back and redo the comic from this different point of view? What kind of got you to do that?
So Dead of 17, I think wrapped in 2014, I think it was, and the complete collection came out in 2015. So that was kind of the last I've done. But like, even though that was the last comic I put out and I moved on to T-Bird, I was still working on Dead at 17 stuff like behind the scenes. Like, for example, um, after I finished the series, I had the opportunity to do the short film. So I was involved with that for some time. And then from that, it led to the novel. And I go into more detail with this on that my history stream or whatever. So
Hmm.
if you people want to know more details, you can listen to that. But anyway, so I had the opportunity to do the novel. Um, and then from that, I was given the opportunity sort of to write the screenplay based on the novel. So I've been writing all these different versions, and so in the course of all this, I've sort of developed like this new perspective, new ideas, and like kind of reinvigorated my, um, perspective and stuff. So I was like, I think it'd be time to go back to the comic, and I kind of thought of a new way back into the story, even though I had ended it. So this is sort of like you said, like this is like it's sort of a retelling of the original issue one, but from a different perspective. Because in the original issue, at the beginning, Nara dies at the opening pages, and then it
Hmm.
switches to Hazy's perspective, her friend Hazy. You follow her until the end of the book. So I thought it'd be cool to see what is going on with Nara, even though she's dead, like that journey to like the quote unquote afterlife or wherever it is she goes, and then her journey back, and then what she did to get back to Hazy. Um, um, but in addition to that, I introduced some new threads and concepts that sort of plant the seeds to do more stories in the future, to take the story kind of in a little bit different direction. So,
And that's that. I kind of like that you said you're telling it from Nara's point of view because that's one of the great things is we see this because Hazy's such a great character. I mean,
mhm,
I know you were doing kick-ass females before most people were doing kick-ass females. You know,
right.
uh, uh, because and that's the thing is, and you can say. I don't know. Would you also kind of classify Dead at 17 as YA kind of later age YA, young adult, or do you?
Yeah, that's definitely been just noticing the audience. That's definitely been. I mean, I didn't set out attending that, but that's
Right.
definitely been the response for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Because I know because when we talked about that Dead at 17, the first volume that I
Mhm.
picked up from when Image did that single release there of those first five comics, I was able to pick that up at my local comic book shop and I read it and I was like, man, this is a great story. And the zombie phase was kind of
Mhm.
all in there, being a big Resident Evil fan. It's
Yeah.
like, oh man, this is great. And then you had kind of that religious aspect that we were kind of briefly talking about before we came on the stream.
Mhm.
And I was like, that's what really kind of appealed to me. To the series. Now I know we really haven't talked about this. Now you are a Christian, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So and this so if people are wondering where do these religious tones come in, one of the nice things I really like that you did was you took like events from the Bible and you have them kind of lined up from Revelation and stuff like that, but you kind of put
Mhm.
your own spin on things,
Mhm.
which I really liked. I thought that was really good. It's like because we don't know what that time period's going to be, what's going to happen, but
Right.
at this point, it's like you're adding in these like kind of newer themes, like the kind of like the UFO thing and all these, with the Nephilim and
Yes.
Melchizedek, who was he? Because he's unknown. We don't know. All we
Right.
know is the
Right.
Bible has this one line about it, two lines about him. You're like, well, who's this whole thing? So honestly, I would love to see what he was doing the entire time everything was going on. Like, how did he end up in kind of like purgatory, limbo, and stuff like that? So like those things are like things I would love to see. I don't know if you ever have plans to do that, but those are kind of interesting, you know, things to why I think, because you're doing this whole unique thing, you're kind of making her now is she really more and I wanted to always ask you this. She was always meant to be the new Eve, correct? In this new world, correct?
You're talking about where it ends.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so she was not meant to be like a messiah type figure or anything like that. She was just ordained to, kind of help with the end time stuff, the way you have it, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to make sure that, because I introduced the concept of, the um, zodiac, different warriors associated with different signs. Because, like, I wanted to make sure that she wasn't seen as, like you said, a savior. Like, she wasn't. She was special, but not uniquely special.
Right.
Um,
Because I like the whole Gemini aspect. I thought that was really cool that she
yeah.
has this other person who's kind of linked to her in some ways by those elements. And I know that like people are like, what? Just trust me, you guys got to go read this comic. You haven't had a chance. And I'm going to show some stuff here, but what we'll do is we'll talk about the crowdfunder, and then we'll go back and we'll just kind of look at the comic overall, and I do plan on doing a review once we get done. So I actually have like several reviews of your stuff I got to do.
Awesome.
So, all right. So, by the way, congratulations. You have 9 days left, and you're, over your goal, which is awesome. I love seeing people getting their funding, but we want to get more if possible.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, of course. I try to try to set as low as you can, and to cover all your bases. But yeah, it'd be good to hit some of the stretch goals and things like that. Also, too, real quick, since we were talking sort of in depth about
yeah,
the
yeah,
series, I wanted to reiterate just for people that, like, you don't need to know any of that stuff. Don't be intimidated by all that stuff reading this book, Kill Day, because this is sort of meant, for new readers, but it's not. It's also meant for people who've been reading it all along too. Like, you'll find things to appreciate, but if you're new to it, this is sort of the getting in at the ground. This is sort of like a what do you call it? A good jumping on point, I guess you could say.
right, right.
Um, so that going forward, you don't have to know everything that's happened already. You'll see why when you see this, but it's meant for everybody. So
Awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
and that's the thing is I think a lot of people would be like, I don't know if this is something I'm gonna want to watch and stuff or read
yeah,
because I haven't read the backstory. Like the whole thing that you, you know a lot of people are probably thinking, well, like those typical comic books, like there's so much backstory to read and stuff like that. Like
yeah,
you said, this is a whole new launching point for people to jump in.
yeah.
And I'm probably sure you're probably gonna take some events from the original series and kind of weave them in. Correct?
You'll just have to wait and see.
Okay.
I don't
Uh,
want to say too much, but I think everyone will be. I hope everyone will be surprised and will like what I've come up with. I hope
aw-
so.
awesome,
Yeah,
awesome. I think I know I've been as a fellow creator and also as a fan. I've been very happy to see like you grow as an artist and as a storyteller too.
right.
It's awesome to see when people are doing that. I like seeing those growths. I know a lot of people. Can get stagnant, especially as a writer or creator. They kind of get stuck in a thing. But I think with you, and I've seen this, because you're dealing with, especially T-Bird and Throttle. I know we've talked about this. What was one of the great things about T-Bird and Throttle was, you're taking this character who's been so deconstructed in the beginning, and you're just rebuilding them back up. You
Right.
know, and you know, for all intents and purposes, he kind of is an asshole. You know, in the beginning. You know,
Well, that's the
um,
thing is like I love traditional superhero archetypes, and I don't like the idea that they've all been muddied up. But at the
mhm,
same time, like I don't want someone who's perfect, right? Like
right,
you can do someone who's not perfect, but who's also not a complete piece of crap. But I think it's important to show that he's not, like I said, like, not a perfect human being, but he's also a good guy still.
right,
You know.
and that's the thing, and I think that's the thing. I think we lack in comics. You know, and that's what I wanted to do. Like when and when I'm writing, I have a character called Volt Chaos, and
Mhm,
he's an angelic angel created by God. He's actually standing like it starts out. He's in the room where Satan does his his rebelling of God. Say hey, where he does the seven eye wills of replacing God and stuff like that.
mhm,
So, uh, but so his character as a character, he's an angelic being created and stuff like that. Well, he's actually sent to Earth to round up like all the fallen angels and stuff like that. But the problem is he has anger issues because
mhm,
so you're kind of
right,
I'm kind of bringing him down to earth because he's dealing with he's having a hard time controlling his anger and stuff like that. To me, that's a character worth relating to because how many guys have anger issues? That's because we do. That's just something
yeah,
we have. But it makes him more relatable as a character, and I like seeing those things. You don't have to make you don't have to make the character fully deconstructive and turning him into like they did with Scott Summers. Like one of the reasons why I always liked Scott Summers was because like Superman, he was the good guy. You know what I mean? He was the
yeah,
one who believed in Charles's vision and stuff like that. I don't like deconstructed Superman or deconstructed Cyclops. It's just because I like those characters being the good guy.
right,
Magneto's to me, Magneto's supposed to be the bad guy. I don't like him being made a hero. To me, I don't like that. I mean, I believe in redemption arcs, but at the same time, you have to have that villain.
right.
So, hey, we got Neo in the chat. So, hey, Neo. So, all right. So, you know, let's see here. All right. So, as you said, you started, back in 2003 and stuff like that, and this is, this new perspective on the series and stuff like that of that first issue. Now, let's jump into the tiers. Again, I love the fact that you got that digital tier, at $5, which is great. And you're also offering a reprint of issue one on digital. So that way, somebody who's never been able to add to, been never to read, you can actually get both of them for $10, and there you go. You can read them both digitally, see what the original is, and you get to see the other view.
Yeah, because it is complementary to that issue. You don't have to have read it, but I mean, I think it makes for a more rounded experience if you have that context.
Correct, correct. And then of course, your first print is at 17. Now, how many pages is this going to be?
Um, Minimum 32. It could go a little bit longer. I'm kind of in I'm I'm in the home stretch of finishing the book. It kind of depends how we'll see. At least 32.
Okay.
So yeah,
But anything more is always welcomed.
yes. But it's not meant to be one of my T-Bird epics, which are all like around 60 pages.
Right.
Um, this is sort of just um, I consider this part of like a 20th anniversary celebration. Like kind of going back and touching base before I do a proper relaunch of a new number one. Um, so when I do that, that'll probably be a bigger book, if that makes sense.
So Neo says deconstructed characters have become way too commonplace. Too many people want to break characters, and not enough people want to build them back up.
Right.
And that's true. I agree
Yeah.
100%. And that's the stinky thing is that I think that's also caused the industry to kind of collapse in it on itself. And I think that a lot of that has to do with this postmodernism and stuff like that. And Neo says it makes him happy seeing a writer that can repair a character, and that's true. You know, if I had a crack at Superman, I would literally, I would not be, because like they kind of made Lex like this good guy kind of type character. I'm like, no, Lex is a bad guy. I don't care what you say, Lex is a bad
Hmm.
guy. You know, it's like
Hmm.
I would literally write him a bad guy. Like there would be, yeah, you know, it's like Lex is a bad guy, Superman's a good guy. There would be the clear distinction between good and bad. You know, but Superman can still have his flaws and stuff like that. But I think it goes along with that. You know, you destroy their marriage. You know, and I think the two things to me that has hurt comics is the death of Superman and Lois's marriage, and the same thing, the death of Mary Jane and Peter Parker
Hmm.
has. You know, and I know a lot of people that I've talked to, they want to see like these characters evolve. You know, seeing like again, de-age John Kent and put him back as to being young, so he's at the same age as Damian, so that way they're growing up together. You know, instead of because they're kind of leaving Damian at that 13, 14, 15 age. John should be the same age. You know,
Hmm.
John Kent. So it's like it makes me mad. You know, I would rather see that. You know, in my opinion, I think that makes
Right.
for better stuff. You know,
Yeah.
um, now okay, so your first print starts at $15, as we said, and then you do have three different covers, correct? Or four? No, I'm sorry,
Uh,
four.
4 covers for Kill Day, and then 2 covers for the issue 1 reprint.
Okay. So, which, by the way, so people can see that, these are the four covers, which I did go with option B myself because, got to have both hazy and,
Yeah.
if I had the money, I would have got all four of them. But I definitely, I think A and B were the best ones in my opinion, yeah. So, um, and then you have that there $15 a piece there, and your issue one reprint there. Now you do have a package, all four of them at $55, which is a good price. You actually have all six of them. The original reprint of the first two, and
Mhm.
then yeah, definitely $80. And unfortunately, you got one more tier. It looks like you got three more tiers of the sketch cover, which
Right.
I guess that's anybody can get what they want on the cover, correct?
Right. Right. Right.
Okay. And then of course your other tiers are all out there. So yeah, well, that's awesome to see that like I like seeing these are the covers that these are the ones I like seeing that like your artwork being like your 11 by 17, all those are I love seeing all those being sold out because that to me makes seeing that people are supporting your work, you
Oh,
know.
yeah, I'm very grateful. I've always been lucky that I've had, fans that really, love to own, my originals. That's always been a blessing to me, allowed me to, keep doing this. So I'm very grateful for people who buy the originals for sure.
I think that what also helps, and this is just my opinion, I think is because you're the only one that kind of does the Bruce Timm style. You know what I mean? That has kind of that. I
Uh-huh.
know a lot of people. I know we've compared it to Bruce Timm, but you've made your own style. But it still has that kind of that old timey feel, like that. But with you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think to me, because it carries through all your stuff. You have that cartoony feel, but it's still kind of Art Deco art style, and I think you're very unique on that. I don't think I know anybody else who has that art style. Mostly everybody has the more realistic art style.
Yeah, it's kind of strange how it seems like everything's kind of become homogenized. There's back in the '90s, it was almost like anything went. Like, the more different you were, the better. And now I think everything's kind of got a general sameness to it. Um, yeah, it's too
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, it is too bad because I mean, I was talking with Bob a few weeks ago, Bob, from the channel. And I said
Mhm.
to him, I said, if there was ever an artist that I could have that I could do a comic with, I said Josh Howard would do it. I said because
Oh,
you
thanks.
have, yeah, because you have such a unique style. I just don't get me wrong. Like I like comic. I like there are a lot of good artists out there and stuff like that. But I think you have a very unique style. I see it like, and I think I know why. This is just my speculation. I think why they've done it is because it's quicker and easier to pump out.
Actually, I don't know about that. Actually, I think some of this artwork is a little too labored, in my opinion. Like where it's like,
Oh,
um,
okay.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there are instances of what you're saying. I'm sure, but like, I'm talking about a lot of this art. It seems like there's like it's very real, a lot of realism. And I wonder if a lot of that comes just from there being so many superhero movies where it's almost like people are drawing for the movies. Like,
Right.
how would this costume really look? You see every uh, rivet and buckle and crease, and it's like, where's the fantasy? And I think too, like all of this art, it may like from a like technical skill draftsman point of view, it could be very incredibly well made, right?
Hmm.
But it's also very static. It doesn't have a lot of life to it. Like I will take an imperfect artist who has his own style and a vision and voice versus the most perfectly rendered, art. I just think there's something to. I think for example, like Frank Miller, a lot of his like recent stuff in the last 10, 15 years, a lot of people make fun of it for being super crude and stuff. And yeah, there is a crudeness to it, but I love it more than almost anything else that's being pumped out because there's life to it. It's unique.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but
No,
I'll.
I think I agree with you.
Mm,
I think yeah. I don't know. It's like that's why I like a lot of indie creators. Maybe that's another reason why I like indie so much because that's where you're actually still seeing the creativity. In the indie
mhm,
scene. Whereas like when you're looking at Marvel, DC, or even even like if you look at say Zetascope or Dynamite, all their art is so much the same all the way across the board. Like, if
right.
you look at like Red Sonja, uh, Vampirella and Jennifer Blood for Dynamite, a lot of it is all the same style all across the board. Now that could be their choice they're making, because maybe it matches the mood. It's the same thing with Zetascope. Like a lot of their stuff is all the same style, all the way through. Now DC and Marvel, I don't even know what's going on with them because there's stuff
Right.
like they'll go from these great issues, and then there's just some that just turn out to be dumpster fires. Like it's like
Right.
who's making these editorial, decisions? So I did have a question for you. Uh,
Okay.
so what is the difference going to be? Because you did do. I'm going to bring this up on here on the screen here. You did do a one shot back a few years ago called Dead at 17 Rebirth. Now was that just a tie into um the movie that you did, or is that a tie in?
Yeah, it was just meant as a tie-in to that short film. Just kind of
Okay.
expand on it a little bit. I think it was, I don't know, 15 pages maybe. Yeah,
Okay.
they were just kind of I think they were kind of giving away and stuff like cons and things like that.
So it's not gonna tie into anything like you know anything to do with the reboot or anything like that, correct?
Right. Yeah. I mean, just no. It's its own thing.
Nice. Okay. All right, and
Yeah.
as you guys see here, partly why I wanted to bring this up is because especially this now the nice thing about this style and this cover is completely different. If you look at your normal art style, like this was like I definitely felt it was like a different feel on that cover on the Rebirth versus like your other stuff. Now, was that when you were kind of in the middle of like shifting to T-Bird and Throttle, or is that why the art styles are a little bit different, or are you trying for a different aesthetic on the Rebirth versus?
It's a couple things. One, it was because I had likenesses of actors, and two, it was because you know I wanted to feel a little bit um cinematic, I guess you could say.
Okay.
I did aim for a little bit something because, like, one of the things that the kind of direction I was given was that he wanted to sort of feel like a Mondo poster, type thing. So,
Hmm.
you know, I tried to sort of add that some of that aesthetic in. Um, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because if you look at, I mean, you could definitely tell, like, especially like when you're dealing a lot with more with like shadows and stuff like that. On,
Mhm.
you know, so it is definitely as as a restarting of the title, it is definitely much darker. You could tell that how much it's tying into like the whole cinematic style,
Right.
and stuff like that. Um, Again, I think for me, like I think that's one of the great things about comics. It allows you to do so many different things, and an art style can change, and switching up your art style can make a story feel so different from another art style.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and two, you mentioned earlier, I think, in passing, but like when I started Dead at 17, I was in my early 20s. And like when I was making it, and the book's coming out, I'm kind of learning as I'm going, and so
Hmm.
I've had the benefit of like all these years again, new perspective and develop my skills and come up with new ideas. So that's another one of the reasons I wanted to go back to it is, what would it look like and feel like now if I started it now, you know?
Hmm.
So
So, like, are you classically trained? Like, did you just like always draw and then you went to college that way, or you
I
know?
was always drawing, and I was always encouraged. I guess people saw something in it, and I was always saying, "Oh," like, always in school, I was always, "Oh, the artist," right? And so my
Okay.
parents encouraged it. I remember I just started studying, books and comics and things, and then I eventually did go to art school. I went for animation because there wasn't like a comic book course. But through the course of that, I picked up a couple things, but I ultimately decided I didn't want to do animation, so I left. I didn't finish didn't finish art school. I'm art school dropout. Um, but yeah, that's sort of it.
All right. So Neo says, he says, same here. My Riserman artist Felipe has a art style that feels like a cross between Ishimura and Hanna Barbera art styles.
Nice.
What? Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I definitely, and that I don't know if if you've ever worked with anybody from like the Philippines and down in like South America. Dude,
Mm-mm.
the amount of art that's coming out of there like it literally blows apart the American styles in a lot of ways. Like like these guys, they got their hustles on, man. They got their hustles on, and the stuff that's coming out of there is just fantastic. You know, especially just, and I think that's cool. Like that's one of the great things. I think that we live in this digital age. We can meet people all around the world and get into these different aspects of art styles and expose people to things that they would have been exposed to, you
Right.
know. Because the average person, I mean, you think about it, an American artist, I mean, I know you have your prices where you have two prices because you got to make a living. So,
Mhm.
you know, um, you can't undercut yourself at the same point, and then sometimes that the downside is like an average person couldn't really afford you as an artist, because just say, let's say somebody's up and coming, they're a writer, and you really like their artwork. Well, they're just per page, a lot of times artists are just like mainstream artists are out of and I just want to get an idea. Well, like, what do you charge per page if you would do what 250?
Honestly, it's so all over the place because I've never really had the
Okay.
luxury of a page rate. Um, That's what I see people complaining about page rates. I'm like, you get a page rate. Like most of my stuff has been indie, and so I've never really been in that
Right.
position. There's been a couple of times that I've been, but it's like the jobs that I got were so vastly different that I couldn't. I mean, so I don't know. I don't have a page rate. I mean, there's things that I asked for whenever the rare times I do get outside work.
Hmm.
So it's really hard to say.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but like at the same at the same time, I'm not in a position where I can ask for whatever I want. I do want to work, so um, uh, I wouldn't try to intentionally price anyone out.
Right.
What I'm saying is, I would definitely try to work if it was something I needed to do or wanted to do. I would definitely try to work with whoever it was to.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, actually, because the reason why I asked you that was Bob has asked me the other day when I was talking to
mhm.
him last week when we were talking about getting you on the stream, and unfortunately he couldn't make it because it was so late. He works in the morning, but he wanted me to ask you. He was like, "Does do you have anything outside of like have you done anything for any other companies besides Dead at 17 and T-Bird and Throttle? Have you done any work for like DC, Marvel, and stuff like that?"
I did around 2004 through 2000 for a period of about 3 years. I did work at DC, but not on any of their mainstream stuff. They started a new label called Minx.
Okay.
That was the editors of Vertigo created it, and it was designed aimed at like teen girls was the readership they were going after. And so they had
Oh,
me
I
pitch,
think I remember that. Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
and they had me pitch some stuff, and I wrote a whole graphic novel that they paid me very well, and they ended up deciding not to do it, but they didn't want to lose me, so they put me on someone else's graphic novel. So I ended up drawing Clubbing, which was written by someone else,
Okay.
and so I did that for a while, and then there was going to be a Clubbing 2, but I couldn't really draw it. But they had paid me to ink it, so I was there for a few years, but I wasn't working anything mainstream. And like Marvel's never asked me to work for them. I did one issue of Ghostbusters at IDW. Trying to think if there's anything else really.
I know just recently because I just picked up. You did get uh sweet sweet candy vigilante getting cover work done. So
Yeah, that's the guy who created that. Who's writes it. His name is John Cafiero. He's has a band called Soca Pop Star. He's also affiliated with the Misfits. Um, but I've done stuff for him for years. I've done a couple albums covers for him and things like that.
hmm.
And he wanted to do a comic, and then he initially recruited me to draw it, and I did draw the first issue, but I couldn't do the rest. So he eventually hired someone else to draw the interiors. But he wanted to keep me on his covers, so I've been doing the covers for that.
Which
That like
which I did pick up the first volume collection and I do have. Now, are you doing the covers for volume two too?
yes, yes.
Okay, good. Because I actually asked my comic book shop to say, okay, anything that Josh Howard is doing as cover, that's what I
Oh,
want. And
awesome. Thanks. Thank you.
so I purposely with I got the trade volume one, and they actually put all your covers in there because I didn't get the chance to get the individual issues, so I got the trade, and they did actually put every one of your covers in the trade. So
Oh, cool.
so yeah, that's the thing is, I was like, anywhere you're at, I want to try to support, and those were actually kind of the better covers that I really liked. They weren't bad. So I actually, like I said, I enjoy your artwork a lot. So that's why I would. So yeah, Neo says the Misfits, huh? So
Yeah, yeah, John, I think he manages the Misfits. I'm
oh,
not sure.
are they out of Texas?
No, no.
Okay.
Yeah, for whatever years ago, John Cafiero, he just, um, I guess he just liked my artwork, and I've done a lot of stuff. He's hired me to do a lot of things for him over the years, and just, like I said, eventually it led to this comic. Because like, otherwise, I don't think Dynamite would be hiring me to work there if it wasn't for him. Someone at Dynamite does not like my work because a couple years ago, they do these retailer exclusive variants for some of their books where like a retailer will request an artist for a
Right.
variant cover. So I got requested to do a cover for like Red Sonja and Vampirella, um, and uh, it was a fight to get my Red Sonja cover through. They kept
What?
nitpicking it to death. They were saying I wasn't drawing her right. I wasn't drawing her on model, and I was like, "Y'all have done hundreds of covers of Red Sonja, and every artist is able to do her in their own style." I go, "What do you mean on model? Like, do you have a model sheet I need to follow?" And they couldn't give me one, of course. And
That's
they kept
that sounds like an excuse to me.
it was. And so but I finally got it through, even though they kept nitpicking. They were saying like I wasn't drawing the face right. I'm like, every time she's drawn, she looks a little bit different because every artist draws her differently. Anyway, so
Right.
I finally got that cover through, they canceled my Vampirella cover. So I never get to do the Vampirella cover. So
Oh man, I would have loved to have seen you do a Vampirella cover. That would have been
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I did all the sketches for it, but it was such a weird experience. So I don't know if they're gritting their teeth or if there's even the same people. I don't know who it was that didn't had a problem with me. I don't know. It was very bizarre. Um,
Yeah, yeah, that's weird. Yeah,
yeah.
that's really weird because you know that. I mean, Vampirella is like another character I would love to write for because she's like such a depending on who she's under. As a writer, like Christopher Priest right now is killing it with her.
Mhm.
He's a great writer, so he's been doing a really good. He wrote I think 50 issues between the two series he was writing. Then he took a break, went over. I think he went and did something on Marvel or DC. Now he came back and he's writing the next arc on Vampirella. Um, but that sucks. I'm surprised like Zetascope hasn't got you because you got somewhat of the pinup style. I would think they would have like kind of maybe had you do covers or something like that.
Yeah, they had some. There's a lot of weird stuff in the comic business. I mean,
Yeah.
some people just like yeah. There's people that just don't like you for whatever reason, and I don't know. A lot of weird politics and things like that. So
Well, yeah. I mean, we know that that probably because you're doing stuff with Peter, that's probably why you got pigeonholed out and stuff like that. Because
I went to Peter because I'd already been pigeonholed out. I mean, so like it didn't matter at that point.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm actually surprised that Ben Dunn didn't come after you because Steve Bernard Throttle would have really worked over there, especially with him doing all.
I took it over there actually.
Oh, you did.
I when I did the first one, at Comic Con that year, I took it to everybody, and I took it to them because, um, uh, back when Dead of 17, I submitted it to them, and uh, I made some progress with them doing Dead of 17, but ultimately they said no. But I remember after it came out, they constantly came up to me and said they regretted passing on it. Um, but yeah, I did take T-Bird over there, and it seemed I heard them talking behind the booth like they were excited, but then I never heard anything. So
Well, I think they're always in flux.
right.
Unfortunately, because we were going to get Sporkman over there. We actually had Ben. Like I was actually in I could tell you about this because it fell through because since we're no longer doing the project. But so Ben actually I approached Ben about getting in there, sent it to him. He really loved it. He's like, oh man, well they were going to put it in their manga anthology series, and
Yeah.
well, that ended up falling through. That when we fell through on our business, we were about ready to sign and everything, and when the whole stuff blew up between me and Eric, I had to back out. At that point, I emailed Ben and I said, "Hey, I'm no longer associated with the title." And he's like, "Oh man, that sucks. I really would like you guys to stay with." Well, eventually, a couple months later, they end up canceling the manga anthology.
Oh man.
So yeah, well, it's kind of a blessing in disguise. You know,
Mhm.
I mean, even though I'm still associated with the series, I'm just fulfilling the crowdfunder. Then that's it. I'm already right now. I'm working on three different series. Um, I'm doing Vol Chaos and the Myth Gods. Basically, he's going to be going around to all the series takes place where he goes to every country that like Babylonian mythology, Egyptian mythology, and he actually takes out the fallen angels behind who have set shop up and posing as the false gods.
Okay.
And then I have a series called Ultra Girl, and she actually she is our my Wonder Woman model. She actually has remember the centurion that pierces the armor of Christ or the side of Christ.
Right.
I actually have it where the blood, his Jesus' blood splattered on the armor, and it imbued it with powers.
Okay.
So
Very
she
nice.
actually will. So she's going to be fighting, like her villain is going to be Lilith, who she's going to be fighting against. And I actually have it where like she's going to like have it like where it's actually she's putting on the whole armor of God. You know what I mean? Because the
Okay.
armor is going to be blessed, and it's basically going to give her the power of like an equivalent to an Amazon.
Okay. Cool.
And then I have Celerity, who is our speedster. She got her powers from dark energy and dark matter. So,
Okay.
I'm in the middle of writing scripts. As I get
Nice.
ideas, unfortunately, I don't get to work on them too much just because of everything going on. But
Mhm.
I start well when I was going through the really dark time. I kind of was not writing at all. So I've been slowly getting back into writing again. Vol Chaos. I actually have like I think I have like 26 pages written, and Altar Girl, I just have the beginning written, and Celerity, I have about 10 pages written. So,
Okay.
you know, but eventually, I want to start going after that, but I got to get other things taken care of. I got to get the Sporkman stuff done first before even getting to that stuff.
Right.
So, all right, so all right, so let's go kind of go back here to Dead at 17. Now, I'm gonna kind of focus more on just the collection. Um, when you were doing this, like how far were you just when you were originally writing the original series? Did you plan for it to be 30 issues, or were you just kind of doing by arcs? Like what happened?
No, it was. It's kind of a long story, but make it short. I was only going to do like just the first miniseries.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't know that it had any life beyond that, and then it came out and it did really well. And Viper was like, "I think we should, keep this going," because I was going to go on, move on to T Bird right after issue 4, way back in 2004. I was planning to go to T Bird, um, but because this did well, we kept it going. So like, I kind of had to figure out, okay, what's the bigger story here, and yeah, I just kind of evolved from there.
Okay, so I didn't realize you had T-Bird written up pretty much all the way back then.
I mean,
In
it wasn't in its form that it is now, but yeah, I had the bones of it for sure. I mean, and there was a
Wow.
couple other false starts along the way where it was supposed to come out and then didn't. But yeah, I've been trying to get that thing done for 20 years.
Kind of how like I'm feeling with Volt Chaos on how long it's taking me to write,
Well, yeah, so
because
don't give up, man. Just don't
it's
give up.
well, I always say God does things in mysterious ways. Maybe that's just by design.
Well,
He's
yeah,
trying.
look, I'm thankful it didn't come out back then because it needed time to develop and grow, right? So, like,
Right.
I'm so glad it didn't because the one that finally came out, I think, is the way it's meant to be. So,
That's awesome. Yeah, and
yeah.
I know from everybody that I know have read it, they really love it. And did Antarctic, or excuse me, did Alterna, did they give you an idea like how the numbers were on T Bird? I guess pretty
Um,
good because I mean you are doing the second series.
no, I'm not doing any more with them. It was just
No,
that
no, no,
first.
no. No, I mean like you're on to the second series. You just release. You,
Yeah, like, but that was not because I crowdfunded and put it out myself, and Alternative just kind of reprinted the first four, but that was never a contention on me doing more. Like I was going to do
oh, okay,
more regardless of how it did at Alterna.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
but with them, did it do really good? Because I know I bought copies of it just to support. You know what I mean? Um, did Peter give you any kind of numbers? Like, did it do well or?
yeah,
Uh,
like, I think I'm trying to remember the exact. I don't have the cumulative numbers, but I mean, out the gate, it did pretty well. I mean, it did more than it had crowdfunded as far as
oh,
like, the number of people. Um,
wow,
I
wow!
mean, it didn't blow it out of the water, but it was, it was,
S- It
um,
was steady enough to.
yeah. So yeah, um, but like it's sort of the idea though was like the reason I went to Alterna is because I wanted to get T-Bird in stores because I didn't want it
Hmm.
to just be a crowdfund only thing.
Hmm.
And they were in stores at the time. They were even in bookstores like Barnes and Noble or whatever.
Nice.
So when I signed with, that's what I was the intention. But by the time T-Bird actually came out, they had pulled out of stores and pulled out of Diamond. So it was kind of not an ideal thing. Like it was like, oh, so it's online only again. Like that was sort of not what I know Peter did what he had to do for the company, but like that was sort of not what I intended up.
Right.
Um, so it just seemed counterproductive for me to like continue going. Like I'm already crowdfunding it, doing it myself online, and to have it another place where it's online, it feels like self defeating in a way. Like
Right.
you know,
I had heard, and I don't know if you've heard this or not. Like, I
uh,
was in the comic book shop a few weeks ago, picking up my comics. Um, before my last comic book run, because with us moving and stuff. So they apparently Diamond is now shifting into indie slash crowdfunded comics to start putting in the stores.
is that true? Wow.
I don't know if this is true, but this is what they told me at the comic book shop. Because I guess apparently they're hurting numbers with DC and Marvel pulling out from them.
Okay, that makes sense.
You know, I don't know how true that is, but I just gotta wonder because like all these other like Scout Comics, Boom Studios, they're all hurting for money. I mean, Scout Comics, they just got in trouble because they weren't paying their artists.
Well,
So
because there's no there's no money in any of this. That's the sad part. Is that um you know, when the big two are hurting, then everyone hurts, you
right,
know. So yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, it seems to be a recurring theme is that people can't pay their artists.
yeah. Well, which is why Dan Mendoza got his series Zombie Tramp back from who was it, Action Lab, I believe. Like
Yeah.
he went to court and he got him back because I actually backed. I just got my issue in of the crossover they did with Lady Death and and,
Hmm.
and Zombie Tramp. So I just
Yeah.
got that. I just got that in today. So it's like it's awesome to see it. I know he's kicking Zombie Tramp back off as a whole new series too, which is because I discovered that about the same time I discovered that it's 17. So it's kind of cool to see two series that that were early on. They're kind of kicking themselves back off again. Which
Yeah,
is cool.
Dan's doing great. I mean, more power to him, man. He's making a killing and building his audience. Has been crazy to see how his growth, you know.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard this or not. I follow a couple of artists on Facebook. Apparently, Image Image did or not. It was Todd McFarlane did uh a cover. He was doing a cover for Spawn, and apparently, I guess an AI generated cover won the contest,
Oh wow.
and a lot of people are upset.
Wow.
A lot of people are upset. Like I'm like Yeah, because I don't know where you sit on it. I mean, I know there's no stopping AI, but at the same point,
Hmm.
uh, I think AI is good. Like if you're in, like you're trying to decide what you'll look, because especially as me as a writer, um, I have in my head the way I want her to look, but on paper, AI I think is good to do like to do like demo stuff, and then I can go to the artist and say, okay, well this is how I kind of want her to look like in
Right.
your style. You know what I mean? I think it's a kind of like how digital art was. It's the production. It's a production tool, in my opinion. Not
Yeah. Like I don't get angry over it like some people do because my perspective was I already have hundreds of thousands of artists I have to compete with. Throwing a computer into the mix does not bother me because I don't know. It's just add it to the pile of people that I have to compete with in the marketplace, right? Like
right.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm pro the use of that, in place of real art, but I'm just saying it doesn't make me angry. Maybe it should. I don't know. I just
Well, I think,
um
yeah, I can see where some people come from because it does affect their livelihood, no matter what.
well,
Um,
yes and no. Well, I guess yeah. There's gonna be someone who doesn't get a job because the company goes with AI. Yes, that is 100% true, and I'm not for that. I guess just from my point of view was like I'm not getting hired for those jobs anyway because I have to compete with all these other real artists as it is.
right,
Um, I think a computer there is not going to move the needle one way or the other for me necessarily.
right.
Maybe that's being, I don't know, but yes, I think. Look, it's not a good thing, but it's not going away. Unfortunately, there's no stopping it.
Right.
It's just one of those things. It's like once you let the genie out of the bottle. I mean, I wish it's just like it's just despite the years and years of like all the fiction we've written, the movies we've made, warning about this stuff, we still go ahead and do it. It's just
Yeah.
it's like what is wrong with people? It's like
You, you,
um
not to get into the religious conspiracy thing, but
yeah.
I wanted to tell you this. So my view is like I think AI is going to play into the end times stuff. You know,
Oh, I without a doubt. I mean, that's the way
uh,
it
be,
appears.
yeah,
Yeah.
because look at it like I mean everything is going AI. Like I was just reading an article because being that I work for the state, I kind of get I gotta get I can't reveal everything, but I get some back information. You know what I mean? Backdoor
Mhm.
information, and like. I mean, there's stuff the state's talking about going and doing with AI and stuff like that. It's like, wow. I mean, because that's the thing is, that's the only thing that it's almost going to become is AI going to be able to become predictive enough where it is doing like Minority Report, that the pre-crime stuff because that's how they came up with all the January 6th people. They've been using generative AI to take to spot faces and stuff like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's like, whoa, that's a little scary in my opinion.
Well, I mean, depending on how far in the weeds you want to get, I mean, yeah, there's the verse that says what life is given to the image of the beast, where
Yeah.
it can spy on people basically, you
Yep.
know, and report people. What does that mean? It is yeah. So
So it is freaky, how everything
right.
is. Yeah, and yes, the thing is, like, I was like they were talking about the person who was in the article. They were talking about like they were saying about how like AI was not going to get advanced like the way like Skynet is and stuff like that because it still has to pull from. It has to be programmed. You know what I mean? It has to have a data set fed to it and stuff like that. Now, you can come back and say how much of that is eventually doesn't get fed to where it can predict all its stuff on its own, you know.
Well, what about this idea? Have you heard of this kind of concept or theory that um now this is getting crazy, right? But that a say a demonic spirit could inhabit AI
Yeah,
to where it could like fool someone into thinking that it was sentient, but it was just something else operating through it.
There is actually a pastor who actually floated that idea.
Okay.
So yeah, you know what? Who's to say? Because yeah, it's creepy.
Yeah. Well, wasn't there like a thing a while back where like I can't remember what it was called. I wish I could remember the name of it. But there was like an entity that kept appearing in certain AI prompts, and
Huh?
it was always very gruesome images. And I can't remember they had a name for it. It was like this female entity that kept popping up. It's very strange.
Wow. I'll have to look.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that. I There's a channel I follow called the Y Files, and he kind of does like a lot of like paranormal stuff and like aliens and like moon theories and all this stuff. Well, did one on AI, and he was talking about how he was doing this test with AI, and he had the AI say, write me a story about how AI could take over the world, and the AI wrote this story about how it was able to take over the world without firing a single shot. And guess how it got out?
Oh.
All because a human made a mistake. A janitor didn't unplug a Roomba from the network, and the Roomba was able to use a Roomba by putting in a little amount of AI code into it, which then disseminated out.
Oh wow. That's
uh,
insane.
Yeah, it is. So if AI gets to that point, it's like you're really. So Neo says he's like, I'm more afraid of AI leading the Skynet compared to anything else. I can't exactly fear AI doing something the government isn't already capable of doing. 100%.
Well,
You
yeah.
know, yeah. I mean, the thing is, I mean, the government's already 50 years. They're 50 years ahead of what we are.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because they have neural nets already and stuff like that. So yeah, it is weird. But eventually they'll probably release a zombie virus, and we'll
Didn't
need
that
to
already
already.
happen?
Well, apparently.
Seem to
Nara.
remember something happened in 2020. Can't remember what that was.
Yeah, exactly. That thing called that thing called COVID. Oh, I'm sorry. I did tell you I almost died, didn't I?
No.
Yeah. I went in with COVID um in 2021, summer 2021. I got COVID really bad. I actually ended up with my potassium level was down to 1.5, and the doctor looked at me and said, "How did you not have a heart attack yet?" Because it was that low. Like my potassium levels were really low. So I
Mhm.
had a bacterial infection, low potassium, COVID, and I also had pneumonia in both of my lungs. The
Oh
first
my gosh.
the first 24 hours they gave me a 50% chance to live.
Oh jeez.
So so I praise the Lord I'm here.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah. It was a scary time, and yeah, I knew COVID was real. Like I didn't have any problems with COVID. What's funny is I got it almost exactly 30 days after getting the shot.
Mm, interesting.
Now, I hadn't had COVID like the year and a half, that COVID had been out. I didn't have COVID, but so yeah, I got COVID. Well, I had been fighting a bacterial infection beforehand, and it wasn't getting under control. Well, here to find at the same time, I had COVID, and it was destroying my kidneys. And I'm type 2 diabetic
Oh my gosh.
because of it. So yeah, so I'm on. Well, my weight also shot up too. So like I'm now down. I'm down to below 250 on weight. So I've lost over 30 pounds. So
Okay.
kind of had to. The doctor said like, look, you're either he's like with the diabetic, he's like, you got to either lose the weight or you're going to be on medication. Oh, I mean, I am going to be on medication the rest of my life, unfortunately, but
Mm,
I had to pick or choose what medication I wanted to be on.
right, right.
So yeah, but anyhow, I mean, I'm alive. That's you know, by the grace of God, so I'm here. I can still, be with people like you and Neo and Bob and stuff like that. So I look at all the negative stuff and the bad stuff that's happened to me, and I'm like, you know what? Hey, that was all a challenge. So,
Yeah, for sure.
but anyhow, so yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll wrap it up here. I don't want to hold you up because it's after 12 o'clock your time, so I don't want to hold you up here. Josh, where can people follow you?
I'm on. Uh, I was gonna say Twitter because it's X now. I was on. It's at Joshua Howard. Instagram Josh_Howard, and that's pretty much it.
And you also have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I don't really promote it too much because it's just I'm not trying to be a YouTube person. I just it's one of those things I
Yeah,
did it out of necessity, and occasionally I'll talk with friends about stuff. But yeah, I do have like I said, the Dead of 17 history. I went to the history of the whole thing. I do have that uh, I did last week. To promote the book and everything.
right.
But yeah, I think I'm not sure what the name of the channel is, but it's
Isn't it How Rad Media?
yeah, How Rad Media. That's what it is.
Which I take that is actually a pun off of your last name.
Yes, it all goes back to like an in joke where we went years ago. We went to Disney World. This is back when they had physical tickets. And they misspelled our name instead of Howard. It said Howrad, so it became a running joke in our family that we're the Howrads, and so that's where the name came from. Yeah,
That's interesting. That's
yeah.
interesting. All right, and yeah, guys, links to Josh's channel are in the description. Also to his thing. Go out and support Josh through his crowdfunder. He did make his goal, but we want to try to. Yep, yep. I am still here, Neo. But I take it a day at a time. My sister actually. I'll be honest with you. My sister's been really a big support. I have good friends that have been really good support. I'm eating healthier, making better choices. Too bad I still do the soda thing because that's my comfort food. But yeah, that's where I've lost a lot of the weight is by I eat smaller portions, I eat better food, and stuff like that. So the last year I've been doing my blood testing and I've been well below. I actually my AC13 was 5.4 this last time. So my levels have been very good in blood sugar wise. So doctor was really happy. He actually told me he's like I could take you off two of the medications of the four that I'm taking. And I'm like, I was like, I'm going to be in the middle of moving here and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't want to play with the numbers yet. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if I do good, the next time around here in 4 months, then I'll probably drop a couple of the medication because I don't want to be paying the prices.
Right. Right.
So but anyhow, yeah. So, Josh, I want to thank you again for coming on. As always, I love when you come on because I love talking with you. And I love talking about Dead at 17 and T Bird. It's a great series that to always use, and plus I like supporting your work. So I appreciate you coming on, and I do apologize we had to do it so late for everybody. But Josh and I's schedules just kind of do not match up.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No, I'm sorry about that, but thank you. I really appreciate you always having me on because I mean, I don't ask to go on shows. Like this is not me. But you've always been so kind to invite me, and so I've always been glad to come on. So I really do appreciate it.
you're welcome. And
Yeah.
guys, you remember to got a week left, or 9 days left for the campaign. Go ahead if you are looking to back it. Links in description. And you guys, you can follow me at Dead Moon D on Twitter, and or we call it the Twatters now because we don't know if it's X or Twitter because some it's like X and other things like you have to type Twitter to go into the screen. It's like, okay, well, what is it? So Bob and I have gone to call it Twatter. So yeah. Actually, Josh, real quick, I want to ask you: you playing any video games?
I'm a pretty big nerd. That is the one area where I did not get the game gene.
Oh,
Yeah. So, uh, books, movies, toys, all that, but no, I just didn't.
no
I
game,
didn't
no
get.
game.
Yeah.
Oh,
My
that's okay.
son got it though. My son has it, but not me. So
Nah. I know. Didn't you post just recently? Speaking of that, did you just post you got some new action figures, or you moved around some stuff?
I'm always getting new action figures.
So we'll
No,
have
but
to do a stream one night where you show if you could ever show us your collection, of stuff. I would love to see it. I'm a
oh, of
big
course, I'd love to. Yeah.
I'm a big action figure collector. Actually, I just got in. Uh, about 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, I got in I'm a huge anime fan, so I got my Raphtalia from Figma in. It was
Okay.
$80, but it was an ouchie in the pocket, And
Yes.
I have on reserve. I have some other figures coming down the pike here, that I have reserved. That's out towards the end of this year, which is nice. I order from Big Bad Toy Stores, so they have them
Oh
out
yeah.
pretty far. So
Right.
which is nice. But yeah, I would definitely love to see your collection sometime. I know Bob's also a big, huge action figure, so always cool about that. So again, well, I'm gonna let you go. Appreciate it, Josh, again, and God bless and take care of yourself, brother.
You too, man. Thank you so much.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.